Welcome to Community IT Voices. My name is Carolyn, and I'm here with Jose Antonio. And Jose Antonio, can you tell us your full name and your title and how long you've been at Community IT?
Sure. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm
So my name is Jose Antonio. I work with Community IT as a service desk manager. That's my role in the company. And I started with Community IT about 6 years ago. So basically, I oversees the help desk activities. So the help desk main goal is to restore services, to help our clients to solve problems with technology, fulfill service requests, any service requests they might have, like onboardings, offboardings, things like that. And of course, making sure that the clients have, a good, a positive experience. So that's basically what I do. That's my main responsibility.
What do you do on a typical day? Or is there a typical day?
That's a good question. There's not typical day actually. Pretty much every day is different. Like our clients have many different problems, right? But I think I can summarize that every day I coordinate the workload for my team. We basically are in constant communication, discussing resolution plans for incidents, complex problems and things like that. I monitor the call center activities, and based on the call volume or the number of tickets, which may vary along during the day or during the week, then we try to adjust capacity, either pulling team from people from other teams, or maybe it's just removing people from the team to assist with other things. So basically it's adjusting capacity to achieve our service level agreements with our clients. Another part of the job of my typical days is working with IT business managers, which is a figure that we have for planning with the clients. And we try to make sure that all the documentation for our clients is current, is updated, is clear, and of course is sufficient to provide support, which is our main goal. um, I work with my team also a lot on their professional development. The idea is that all our technical staff stays trained, knowledgeable with technology, and they are familiar with the platform that our clients have. The way they can provide support. Um, and I also coordinate dispatches when we have to send someone on site to resolve something that cannot be resolved remotely. Then I coordinate that as well.
What is the best part about your job?
Wow, many things, but uh, I think the biggest satisfaction for me is helping my team, assisting our organizations to achieve their goals. We work with nonprofits, and so I think that their goal is very their mission is very important, and our goal is to help them achieve that mission. So when we work with these organizations, and by organizations I mean the people that come from those organizations, they always have feedbacks for us, either good or not that good, but it's always very useful to hear when they have positive experiences. Is very rewarding. It's nice to hear that. One thing that amazes me, and I think is also a beautiful part of the job, is the relationship that the techs or the engineers establish with the customers and vice versa. Like I can see how they get to know each other and they become familiar with them. So they always mention names in their feedbacks, and whenever we happen to have someone new, they immediately recognize that, hey, this person is new. I just met this person, so they always say something about it. So it's beautiful to be part of that experience. See how our customers get to know our staff. That's a nice part, I think.
That's great. What is something about your job that we probably don't know that you'd like people to know about your job?
So the way we work is we work with a ticketing system, right? So you either call to the help desk or you submit a ticket via email. You submit an email, and that either way, you will create a ticket, or we will create a ticket for you. Once we finish working with your ticket, we're going to send you a survey to for you to rate the service that we provided for you. And they always provide feedback, either positive or neutral or not positive, or, and it's always nice to hear or to read all these comments. And we read all of them. You know, I think I can talk on behalf of the whole company. We do read all our we call them CSATs, right? So our CSAT comments. We read all of them. So I wish I could thank personally each of them, which is impossible because there are too many. But we take them really serious. Those comments. So
Why did you apply to community IT? What was it about community IT that seemed like a good place to work?
so for me, it was. I didn't apply actually. They found me. And I'm glad they did because I wasn't really familiar with MSP before. My previous experience was in a internet service provider for many years. And when I was I happened to be studying to get a certification in IT, and that's because I have moved from my home country to this country, and I was studying English, I was studying IT, and then the directors of the school said, "Hey, I have this MSP company that is looking to expand, their help desk team, and I think you should apply or you should, go to an interview because they are they're looking for people in this school, and I think you'd be a good fit." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, let's do that." So they called me, Community IT called me, and we had a fun interview. I hadn't taken my certification yet, my exam. So they said, okay, they heard about me and everything, and they said, okay, let's talk 6 months later. And that's what happened. So 6 months later, I had got already my certification. I was about to finish my course, and they called me and they invited me for an interview in person. And boom, it happened. I started. Then I progressively started learning what an actual MSP was. I had my research by before coming to the interview, but I'm like, oh, we help all these organizations that are all here in DC, pretty much. Of course, some of them are not in DC, but a lot of them are in DC. I didn't know how it's huge the amount of nonprofits in the DMV area. So uh, there was there was a discovery for me.
So I can't let it go. You said that you came here from your home country. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, so I came 6 years ago from Venezuela. I'm from Venezuela originally, and I worked back in Venezuela. I worked in a internet service provider, and th- all my years there were projects for websites or applications for our retail stores. And then I was working in marketing for 8 years. So when I came here, I had already took some classes to when I was like 20 or something. I was in college still to for about class English classes as a second language, but I never really used it. And then I came here and I'm like, okay, I had to study English if I want to find a job. So that's why I went to this school to get a job and to get a certification in IT.
Would you say that community IT was a welcoming place to someone where English is your second language and you're an immigrant to the United States, DC area?
Definitely yes. I think community IT has is very diverse. You know, the staff is very diverse. I was realizing last week with someone who just joined my team that we have at least four languages in my team besides English. And I'm like, wow, this is such a great opportunity. Like if someone needs to talk in these languages, they can probably, we could probably do something about this because uh, that's a very, I think it's a very safe place to work in that sense.
Especially, I would think if you're having a technology problem, something isn't working, it can be very complicated. And for the person at the client, it can be extremely stressful to try and explain something in maybe English is not their first language either. So I can see that would be a great advantage to be able to communicate with somebody who's having a very stressful day in a way that can help the situation.
You're right. It definitely is, and which we actually had cases where you know we have clients or organizations who happen to have staff overseas or just here, but they don't, they're new or they just don't know how to explain this. And sometimes they ask, "Hey, can I have? Do you have someone who speaks this language? Can I talk to that person?" And so I myself have jumped into calls as a translator, which I never thought I would do at this job, but I did. I have.
That sounds like a great skill. My next question is also about skills. So it sounds like you took a couple different career steps from websites and marketing to getting certified to supervising the help desk. So if you looked back on what you were studying or what would have helped you into a nonprofit IT career when you were in high school or college. Can you give us some advice on the sort of things that are helpful to prepare you for that kind of career?
Mhm. Yeah, so you're right. So back in my home country, I many years ago I got a bachelor degree in system engineering, and that took me to work in projects, and then I worked in marketing in the same company for many years. Um, I don't know if I was trying to get a job in a nonprofit IT. As I said before, that just happened. But I definitely love the place, and I love how we focus on helping others to achieve those goals as nonprofits.
All right, so my next question is related. I know that kind of IT support maybe has a lot of stereotypes, some that are fair and some that maybe are unfair. And especially you work with the service desk or a help desk. So, are there some personality traits that are good for a person who is going into that kind of career, or maybe some personality types that surprised you would be very successful at being on a help desk?
Yes, to be honest, yes. Actually, it requires a lot of empathy. I think it's important that you like to work with people, that you like to talk to people, that you have the capacity to remain calm when basically we're just receiving calls from customers who have problems. Sometimes they're stressed about technology. They feel like they are not achieving their goals or things that they need to do. They can't deliver to their teams because their work is not IT, but they use IT as a tool, and so they feel frustrated or stressed. And so you must have the capacity to kind of be a good listener, understand. Um, um, what we call active listening, be able to diffuse stress somehow, and then uh, help people. If you like to help people, I think you're a good fit for this job. And of course, if you like technology as well.
Right.
Yeah.
My next question is, what is one thing that you thought you knew about this job when you were coming into it that you were totally wrong about? Something that really surprised you.
No, actually, that question, there's a very funny story there because the real reason why I decided to go back to IT after marketing. First, because of course, I needed to work on something that I feel comfortable with, right? And so I was okay, that's something I'm gonna do. Um, but also I was studying English and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not proficient in English, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to work in marketing anymore. So I decided to pursue my go back to my roots in IT, in information technology. And I thought that working with computers would be easier because I was not going to I didn't I was not going to to be in a position where I had to talk to people. And guess what? My first job was in the call center answering phone calls. So I had to talk to people every day, all day long. And that was a huge lesson to me. No matter how much I knew about technology, I needed to know about people too. So I'm still learning, every day. So that was the biggest thing that I was mistaken about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's working in nonprofit technology who maybe isn't as fulfilled in their job as you seem to be, or maybe isn't getting the support or the training that they need? Like, where do you turn for encouragement, and what resources would you advise people to turn to if they want to strengthen their career and get support?
This is a very complex question. um, well, if someone is not feeling, you know, well or complete or fulfilled in their job, I think we need to dig a little bit more about why are you feeling that way? What is exactly the areas that you are not comfortable with? You know, maybe you need to grow to certain areas in the same field, the same career, or maybe you just need to change career. I don't know. So that's why I think is I think it's kind of difficult to answer that because every situation is different. um, but I think one of the things that help and the most, and I think helped me as well, is number one, find a mentor. Find someone who has more experience than you, who is willing to give you some advice, and you know, try to ask as many questions as you have. Um, and maybe you don't need one mentor, maybe you can have more than one mentor. Interview people who do what you think you might like doing. Find people who has do those jobs that you feel like, oh, maybe this is the path I want to pursue, and talk to them. Everything or a lot of things are about people. If you can talk to people, I'm sure people will be willing to talk to you, to help you figuring out what you want. I have myself have found a situation where people have called me and say, "Hey, can you help me? I think I want to do this," and I'm like, "Oh, this is nice that So if you approach someone with a question like that, I think they're gonna feel good about it. Like, oh, it's good that I can help someone. Let me see if my experience says something to you, something useful.
Are there are there any specific like, certifications or any job experiences that really can help your career in IT support?
Definitely, there are many certifications that you can take, and this field is very broad, and there are many areas of knowledge. So, if someone wants to pursue an IT certification, I think first of all you need to um, find out what is your level of experience. If you have any certification already, what would be the next step. There is a site, an association. It's called Computing Technology Industry Association. It's also known as CompTIA. It's an American nonprofit, and they issue professional certifications for information technology, and they have a roadmap of IT certifications. They include in this roadmap not only theirs but also Microsoft, IBM, Cisco, PMI. And so I would suggest that if someone wants to pursue a career in IT, they go to this site, find that roadmap, and see where you are and where do you want to go. So that's a good place to start.
That's great advice. That's great advice. I know you just said that it's a very broad career. And I think with what community IT does in serving only nonprofits, some people might have questions about their IT support career should they go into a job like community IT that focuses on nonprofits when there are many other areas where you could work in IT. So, did you have any doubts about joining community IT or working with nonprofit technology in general? And now that you're at been at community IT for 6 years, do you have any like advice to your earlier self of go ahead and take the job?
I never had doubts, but I think I never knew the potential. Like as I said before, there are so many nonprofits in DC, in the DMV area, and not only here, but across the country. So there's a lot of marketplace to work, related to nonprofits. So no doubts that you can definitely make a career in this area.
So when people ask you, what does community IT do? Like if you meet somebody at a party, what do you say? How do you explain it?
But I think I say that we provide services for organizations, nonprofit organizations, and we help them achieve their goals. That's what we do every day.
I love it. Thank you so much for this interview today, Jose Antonio. It was wonderful talking to you.
Well, thank you very much, Carolyn, for having me.